Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more home defense testing. And today we've got another very interesting load to try out. It's one that I definitely don't think a ton of people are really going to prefer necessarily, but it's definitely one that could do the job, but it also could serve a purpose elsewhere as well in the hunting oriented scene. Who knows, they could be rather interesting and really surprise us. But as for the shells we've got today, I brought out some more of the Federal Personal Defense 410 handgun loads, but these ones are a 410 2.5-inch 7/16 ounce payload of 4-shot, moving about 950 feet per second. That muzzle velocity is definitely lower than what we probably will see today, considering these are a handgun load and we're going to be putting them through a shotgun. But the big question is, why a number 4-shot in a 410 personal defense load? A lot of people don't even love 410 for defense anyway, but a triple-aught buck load in a 410 is more than capable of doing the job. But a 4-shot, it's not typically what I would go for, but I guess there's some people that prefer birdshot for one reason or another. Maybe they're in a really small apartment and this is what they can use. Maybe they've got a Taurus Judge revolver or something of that nature where they can run 410 in it, and that might be what they're looking for, is just enough to do the job at pretty much point blank range. In that case, maybe I could see it, but overall these are just a copper plated number 4-shot, so nothing over the top special. But these Federal handgun defense loads have been really impressive so far, especially when it comes to patterns from a shotgun. So I guess we'll see what they can give us if you're somebody that would use this shell. I think it might have a little bit better of a purpose as a property gun load, or maybe even a turkey load. I guess we'll have to see when it comes to testing these for a hunting purpose. But today we're going to see how they do up close and personal. As for the shotgun we're putting them through, I brought out my Mossberg 500 410. This is technically the turkey model, but all that means is it's camouflage and has changeable chokes. It does have a 24-inch barrel, and we are running a cylinder bore for a choke, so no constriction at all. This might not be an overly tactical setup, but it's going to serve our purpose today, and we've got a Simmons Pro Target red dot up on top, so we should be able to get a good idea on what these will do through a setup like this if you're running a handgun load through a shotgun, which is actually shown to be a pretty decent option. But as for today's test, we're running it the same as we usually do, and we're going to add a little bit on to the end of it as well. I've got 5 targets set up down there with very terribly painted silhouettes because the nozzle on my spray can broke this morning. But we're going to shoot 5 shots ranging from 7 to 25 yards. So 7, 10, 15, 20, and 25. Some of those are farther than what you probably might or should shoot these particular shells in a home defense scenario. But we need to see if we have a range limitation here and what it would look like if you got yourself in that situation. And then, just because these are a copper-plated number 4-shot from a 410 at a little lower velocity than what a turkey load would be or something, I've got several water jugs lined up down there as well that I figured we should probably shoot a shot into those. It's something I don't usually do when I test like buckshot home defense stuff, but in this case I think it's going to be a pretty valid point of information and good point of reference for us as to how these actually performed. So enough talking, we'll get you guys a view of those targets and we'll see what these can actually do when it comes to a defensive oriented handgun shell loaded with a lead number 4-shot from a 410. All right, so we'll run through our velocities real quick before we look at our targets. The boss claim is 950. However, that is from a handgun, and we were seeing quite a bit more than that, up in the mid 1300s on average, I'd say. And that's about what I expected as well. A good bit of jump in velocity if you're running these from a shotgun barrel. But we had 1387, 1362, 1385, 1372, and 1349. For an average at 1371. So that's definitely plenty enough velocity, and it is not going to feel good if you get hit by it, that's for sure. So let's head down and see how the intruders fared. All right, so now we're down here at our targets. And again, I apologize. My art skills are not great because the nozzle on my spray paint can broke this morning. But it still gets the point across. So at 7 and 10 yards, we see a nice even spread of pellets there. At 7 yards, it's about 10 inches worth of spread. Very nice and even. I definitely like the way that looks for sure. At 10 yards, we opened it up a little to 14 inches of spread, but still very similar patterns overall. And at typical up close and personal home defense range from a shotgun with a cylinder bore anyway, I definitely wouldn't want to be standing in front of that, that's for sure. Now, would it immediately end the threat still? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on penetration and where you hit them. But if you hit center mass, you would be able to keep all of your pellets right through the torso of who you're trying to shoot at. So pattern wise, that isn't that bad. It might not be overly tight, but if somebody's running birdshot, they might prefer a little bit more of a broad and even spread. And that's what that gives you. It's not overly blown all over the place. There isn't a single flyer in anything. Both of those patterns have 56 pellets, I believe it was, in them. So not bad overall. At 15 yards, anywhere from here and beyond, you're really going to have to start deciding whether you should or shouldn't take the shot, and even if these are capable of stopping the threat the way you would like it to. But we did open it up a little more to 23.5 inches. We did start to get a few pellets that would not have hit the intruder, but mostly everything is still right through center mass, and it's still a nice even spread of pellets as well. So as per the usual with these federal handgun defense loads from a 410 shotgun, they hold some very nice even patterns, which is definitely what I like to see. Moving over to 20 yards, you're really starting to push the bill a little bit, but we still continued the same trend. 27 inches of spread, still a nice even pattern across the middle, but we still threw a few extras around the edges as well. That opened it up a little bit farther, but that is still a very capable pattern. It just depends on the situation you're in and what you prefer as far as performance goes, because these are number 4 shot, but pattern wise, it's still good. And finally, we have 25 yards. Here's where my spray paint nozzle actually fully broke, but we continued the same trend. Now we have 34 inches of spread. It's still an even pattern, but you can see we do start to kind of get a little bit of void action going on here. Top right area, there's a little bit of lack of pellets, and we definitely started to get a little tiny bit stringy across there. Still, it is plenty capable enough. I wouldn't want to stand in front of it by any sort of the imagination, but I think 25 yards and beyond is where we're really going to start opening the spread up with a cylinder bore. Overall, though, I gotta say, with a cylinder bore shotgun, you've got a nice spread for sure. At least all the way out to 15 or 20 yards, no doubt about it. The spread is plenty good enough. It just is going to depend on whether you want to use a birdshot load for your home defense scenarios or not. For a property gun situation, getting rid of pests and nuisance creatures and stuff like that, that would be great. But this is a home defense test, so now let's swing over to some water jugs and see what kind of penetration capability we actually have. All right, so I've got 5 water jugs lined up here behind me. Are jugs of water a perfect substitute for tissue material? Not really. Ballistics gel would be better, but we don't have the budget for that stuff around here right now because it's getting rather expensive. But at least this will give us some idea and some actual visualization on how much penetration we get. I will be shocked if we get into the 3rd jug. I would imagine most of it's probably going to stop in number 1, and we might get some of it into number 2. I could be really surprised. These are a copper-plated pellet, so that may help a little bit, but we'll see what happens. As far as distance goes, I figured I'll take this shot at 10 yards. That's probably about the limit of the personal defense type of distance that a lot of people would use these shells for if they had to. And I think it'll give us a good idea on what we've got going on here. So I'm gonna step it back here to 10 yards. We'll take our shot, and I've got the chronograph as well so we can calculate some muzzle energies if we actually capture any of these pellets, so we can weigh them and stuff like that. So let's see what we get for penetration. All right, that shell gave us 1334 through the chrono, so very much average for velocity's sake here, and we can calculate some energies as well if we recovered any of those pellets. But as far as penetration goes, we had a good central hit on jug number 1 over here. If I flip it over here, we had a bunch of them hit right through center mass, and I'm not seeing or hearing any in jug number 1, but we had a bunch of exits there as well, and you can see they continued on into jug number 2. Bunch of entries. We drained a bunch of water out of it, and yep, we do have several of those pellets down in there. We'll dump those out here in a second. But as far as out of the back, we had a couple skim the edge here, but I don't see anything at all coming out of the back. We might have got close right here. There might be a little tiny crack, but I don't think anything escaped through there. And I think jug number 3 confirms that. There's absolutely nothing on there at all. So 2 jugs worth of penetration is what we got, and that's kind of about what I expected to see. I figured we'd have a few of them stop in jug number 1, but it looks like everything might have made it into jug number 2. Is it good enough? Yes, it technically would be. If somebody's got a thick jacket on or something, that may not be the case, but we at least have enough penetration to do the job in the right scenario anyway. And there are all the pellets that we got out of jug number 2. A right good many of them in there, that's for sure. Little bit of deformation on them, but not bad overall. None of them completely split in half or anything like that. And it definitely would be a nightmare for the doctor if you came in after getting hit by that kind of pattern, trying to get all of those things out of you. It would not be very fun. So we'll take those into the bench here in a little bit, and we'll weigh them and measure them and stuff like that, and we can actually calculate some energy. But overall, really not too bad for penetration purposes. It's about what I realistically expected out of them. And if you're a birdshot guy, and if you have a 410 shotgun, or even a handgun in the right scenarios, it would technically work. I just don't know how reliably and consistent that it would work with any kind of intruder that you would have to deal with. And here are a couple of those wads as well out of those shells. This is common with federal shells when it comes to 410. It appears to be the same exact wads they use in a lot of their other 410 loads, including the handgun defense lineup as well. These did get a little bit banged up. You can see we lost a few petals here and there, but they clearly still performed like they were supposed to when it came to pattern performance anyway. So nothing overly special to see there. And here you can see a good nice close-up of some of those pellets that we recovered. Nice shiny copper plating on some of them, while others don't have quite as good of a plating job done. Some of them are definitely more smashed than others too, but we've got a few up there at the top that are pretty nice and round. But it seems like the average weight for these pellets is right about 3.5 grains or so, anywhere from 3.2 to 3.8, so we can definitely calculate some energy based on that as well. If we're going off the average, say 58 or so pellets per shell. So if we bring back up our actual chronograph reading here at 1334 and do some energy calculations for one specific shot here, now that we've got a projectile weight as well, if we calculate total number of pellets averaging about 58 per shell, that gives us about 203 grains total weight. These are a 7/16 ounce load, which is about 191 grains, so we might be just a hair overweight, but that might not inherently be a bad thing either. Either way, with our 203 grains on average or so, we get a muzzle energy of 802 foot-pounds, so in the same territory as a slug would be from a 410, if all of the pellets actually impacted your intended target at a pretty close distance. And for measurement's sake, we get 0.130, and I believe that's pretty well dead right on the money. What a number 4 shot pellet should be is right at 13 caliber, so looking good there for measurement's sake anyway. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that performance right there? As far as patterns go, it's some nice performance shells, that's for sure. You definitely wouldn't have any issues there. As far as penetration goes, I mean, it did about like I expected it to. Copper plated lead number 4 pellet getting 2 jugs worth of penetration pretty consistently. It's about what I expected, but is it reliably and consistently enough for you to want to run it anyway? In the right scenario, you know, up close and personal, if you hit somebody in the right spot with that load, it's definitely going to be fatal. There's no doubt about it. But if somebody's in some thick clothing or a little bit farther down a hallway or something like that, that may not be the case, at least consistently anyway. It might not immediately drop the threat right there where they stand, especially if they got something in their system and they're really riled up. So to each their own. I would probably not go with these in a defensive scenario unless it just happened to be what was loaded in the gun I grabbed. It's better than a sharp sharp stick for sure, but I guess it comes down to personal preference and the situation that you're going to be using it in. As for something like a property gun loading though, I definitely wouldn't hesitate to use it. If you got to deal with all kinds of pests, vermins, or anything like that, raccoons, possums, maybe foxes into the chicken coop that's 20 yards out into the backyard, that might be a fantastic option for that scenario. And it might have a little bit of potential in being a 410 turkey load as well, so we might have to test that out this spring as well and see what we can get from it. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these 410 personal defense handgun loads in any of the different shot sizes or the number 4s in particular? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is this a load you would ever use in a defensive scenario? Or are you just not going to run birdshot for that particular situation? And maybe what other testing do you want to see me do with those shells? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.